Today on Business Spectator, we're joined by Simon McKeon, the current Australian of the Year. He shares with us his passion for business, and he also explores a concept called shared value. Hi Simon, welcome to Business Spectator.
Great to be here.
Simon, you have a background as a lawyer and a banker, and you are the chair and past chair of numerous boards and committees. You're also a social entrepreneur, a record-breaking yachtsman, and now Australian of the Year. How would you describe...
remembered all that stuff.
Thank you. How would you describe yourself?
Look, I'm actually a very average person in the sense that everything I do, and you've just memorised a list of them, well done. I'm actually surrounded by really talented people. And look, my CV might look, long and impressive, but if you really drill down, I am actually a pretty average person surrounded by talent. And, I just get so much out of, working in good teams, and those teams invariably have people with, as I said, more talent than I do.
Actually, your wife Amanda said that your CV is very impressive, but actually it's the Simon behind the scenes that is even more impressive. So do you think your background and family have influenced you as a leader?
Oh, undoubtedly. In fact, I've had the opportunity this year, to talk about like what shaped me and all that stuff, which I haven't talked about for years. And look, I had, and I say this unashamedly, the privilege of growing up in a, tough, earthy, working class suburb of Melbourne. And I wouldn't have traded that childhood for anything. It was, it was a bit rough. I kind of felt 15 when I was 5, because I had seen a side of life that, I guess many middle or upper class people wouldn't have seen. But having said all that, I had relationships as well, which were very strong, rich. And I actually, in particular, saw a community in need, but which was assisted by the other people in that community that, in a quite non-flamboyant way, just attended to that need. My parents were a couple of them.
And so what is your leadership style? From all of that experience, what is your leadership style now?
The thing that I think most about leadership is not actually just a one-size-fits-all style, or what am I best at in terms of leadership. The very first question I ask is, whatever organisation I'm involved in, whatever little group I'm involved in, and if I happen to have a leadership responsibility, the first question I ask is, what's actually required here? And if I've tried to work hard on anything over the last few years, it's actually responding to what's required. Firstly, asking the question, and then secondly saying, okay, well, in this circumstance, at this particular period of this organisation's evolution, whatever, what's required is, and it might be courageous leadership, it might be just leading by example. It might actually be listening, because, and that happens so much in my walk, in that, as I said before, the teams that I might be a part of, indeed even lead, have more than enough talent in them to actually know what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And for me, it's perhaps just a matter of listening to what the clever people in the room are saying, and then perhaps saying back to them, this is what I'm hearing, this is what I think we ought to do. So, to sum up, I'm very loath to go into just one leadership style. I start by saying what's required.
And through all of those experiences, I'm sure you've had some highs and lows. Have you had any crucible experiences as a leader? And if you have, what lesson did you learn from that experience?
Look, the answer is lots. I'm trying to think of one. I think that we set up the takeovers panel now 11 or 12 years ago, and it was basically just a tribunal, a court, if you like, quite focused on sorting out disputes that arise in public company takeovers. Now, the government at the day was quite courageous in setting it up. There were many people in the legal profession who thought it would fail. It got off to quite a good start, but 4 or 5 years into its existence, we were on the receiving end of a couple of very tough federal court decisions, and we ended up being a bit like Monty Python's Night. We were still making decisions, but we had bits and pieces hacked off, and we were we were doing it tough for a while. And that was an occasion where, and I was so well supported by every takeover panel member, it wasn't just me, but it was time to go out on the front foot and say, we are still doing our job. We are doing it to the best of our ability. I was even happy to say, look, I'm a sore loser. I don't accept what the federal court has said. You've got to be careful to say that. But nevertheless, we just got on with the hard work of then supporting the government in putting through some legislation that then got us, if you like, back on track. Indeed, we ended up being much stronger than where we started. But, during that time, I actually didn't know what the future was going to hold. These were two tough decisions, and perhaps the Takeovers panel was really just going to end up being a failed experiment. But all I knew is that I was beautifully backed by so many people that believed in the panel, that was a time to go out in the front foot and just argue the case strong, hard, leading from the front, never giving up. And even though deep down there would be sometimes some questioning of doubt or, what would occur here, so long as I didn't allow that to come to the surface, I really did have to keep that bottled up, or at least the subject of confidential discussions with colleagues. But, out in the public arena, if you like, it just had to be courage, move on. And we got there, which was good.
So it sounds like you've had to deal with pressure a lot in your life and also through that experience. What's it like? What's the pressure like of being Australian of the Year?
I gave a speech the other night, and the Premier was in the audience. He was actually having a night off. I was the one that had to give the speech, and I saw him down there, and I said, I think I feel a bit like you do, Mr. Premier, this year, in that I have no time to myself. It's just constant. But there are two distinguishing features. The first is that you, Premier, have a speechwriter, and I don't. But secondly, you've got, and I had a list of things such as the public transport system and the police force and what have you that were exercising his mind. Look, there's a lot of pressure this year, but actually largely it's all the sort of pressure I would want. Namely, I have this extraordinary privilege to talk about things that I think are important, that are relevant to society, that I can make a tiny contribution to. So yes, it's a year of overload, but actually it's a wonderful year to just give and give and give. I will be tired, I'll be exhausted at the end of it, but hopefully, pleasantly so.
And one of your aims this year is to bring business thinking to the community sector. I'm interested and curious about why this approach is important to you, and do you think it can be reciprocated?
Well, look, I think there are a couple of reasons. I think, firstly, it's always just felt right to me that business, with all the resources, indeed the wealth that we have in business, and in no way compromising the profit maximisation motive, which is important. We don't get capital unless we can say we're good stewards, we're going to deliver a good return. But I just know that resident within business are people, departments, IT departments, marketing departments, all sorts of things that can intelligently actually be put to good use in the community. And I know that I'm actually backed up now by the best business thinkers in the world. Professor Michael Porter from Harvard has coined a phrase called shared value. And what he's saying is that business is so often derided, even though it does so much good. It produces goods and services at competitive pricing, high quality, employs so many people, underpins our taxation, lifted more people out of poverty around the world than aid agencies. Having said all that, business is often derided. And if it's derided, that's a hard way to make profit. He says that we would go a long way if we were seen as joining in trying to solve community problems rather than standing off the side just asking for a better tax system for us or better IR system, but to be actively engaged and seen much more in solving the insoluble community problems. We won't solve them, but at least we can play our bit. And I think he's right. And the American experience is that the largest global companies in the world, and Porter is close to them, are getting this, and they're getting it profoundly, and led by Gen Y, Gen Z, who won't tolerate just working for an organisation that just provides them with a career ladder and a weekly pay packet.
And one of the things that Porter also says is that doing right is good term business strategy, is good business strategy. So that's absolutely what you subscribe to.
Yeah, and I think the business leader of the future, I don't want to be didactic, but I'm going to say has to accept that. I think there's enough evidence. And really the challenge is in accepting that, how do we nevertheless still go about unashamedly maximising profit? Profit is not a dirty word. Profit actually is the reason that we can attract capital and produce the organisations, employ the people that we do. But we're in an era now where we simply have to be cleverer than perhaps we were in the past. And I'm excited about that. In fact, the other thing, of course, is that you get such a huge kick out of doing something in the community sector. I have certainly received a whole lot more back than I've ever given.
Some people were surprised when you went part-time as executive chairman of Macquarie Group in Melbourne. Why do you think that is when often women in leadership roles will go part-time for family reasons?
Look, investment banking is often seen not as a place for shrinking violets and part-time wimps, that sort of thing. So, look, there was a bit of chatter, I recall, at the time. But, look, I was very fortunate in that, I'd already been in the industry for quite a while. A lot of people knew me, and a few people actually contacted me and, said, have you lost your marbles? And it was actually a wonderful opportunity to have a conversation with them and say, look, not at all. I actually love investment banking. I love business. It flows in my veins, and I haven't got tired of it. It's not as if I've suddenly hit a wall. I've just found a whole lot of other stuff to do. And I didn't want to wait until I was spent, until I was a shadow of what I might have been today. And I said, look, I'm just going to try and give it a go. And Macquarie was brilliant about it. My colleagues around me were fabulous. Clients understood it mostly. And, I really haven't thought twice about it for a long time.
You've said that you're hopeless at working out your own 5-year business plan. Why is that?
Well, it is firstly a fact. Look, I'm in the business world, we do spend a lot of time on strategy, working out plans that might be short-term or medium, long-term, and we do things as well as we can professionally with precision. With me, I've just got to say that I have been surrounded by doors that have constantly opened, if you like, and they've been opened by people, often in the non-for-profit sector, that have just been extraordinarily inspiring and have said, look, I wouldn't mind a little bit of help here. Would you come on this journey with me? And whilst I come from a business environment where, looking ahead and being master of your own destiny, making choices that are right for the business, that comes naturally to me. In my own case, I have worked just a little more intuitively, that's all. And I have been profoundly affected by some of the giants in the non-for-profit sector that have had their own vision, their own cause. And I've been able to play a little role here and there. And it's just worked out that way. I'm not advocating that it's the right way for everyone. I often sit down with people and they think, now look, if I'm going to be part of the non-for-profit sector, how should I go about it? And we talk about what their skills might be, what provokes them, and it's much more strategic. With me, it just has never been that way.
As a world speed sailing record holder, tell us about your need for speed, Simon.
Well, look, I've been very privileged to be part of this extraordinary syndicate for a long time now, 30 years, and we have just done the most amazing things at the high-end speed spectrum of sailing. Look, in some respects, yep, there's a huge adrenaline rush getting in a sailing boat and going 50% faster than the average family speedboat will go. But actually, more of it is about the fact that it's really a large-scale science project. It's this particular world sailing speed record thing is just getting in a boat and going for half a kilometre as fast as you can. You're not racing against other boats. There's no tactics. The course is just from A to B in a straight line. And it's 99% technology. And I'm fascinated by that. I gave up having any science I guess, career, back in secondary school, sadly, I think, but nevertheless I did. But I've always been fascinated by technology, and admittedly pretty agriculturally so, but nevertheless this is a wonderful insight. I don't add anything to the science of that syndicate. It's all done by, clever people, but just to be a small part of it and to have created a yacht that just keeps going faster and faster year after year is terrific.
Simon McKeon, thank you very much for joining us on Business Spectator.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.